Warning, due to some language and subject matter, listener discretion is advised.
Your life is a story of transition. You are always leaving one chapter behind while moving on to the next. This is an anonymous quote that perfectly describes my next guest. He's a former NFL player, a former rugby player, a law enforcement officer, and now he is making a huge splash with an undefeated record in the MMA world. Joining me on the podcast today is Elevation Fight Team member Zac Pauga. We're going to talk about wins and losses outside of the ring, big life transitions, and where he plans to go next. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. Zac the Ripper calling in from Colorado. How the hell are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, thanks for doing this show. I'm just doing my research in preparation for this episode. I just got more and more excited as the days built up. So you have quite an interesting story, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it, and I'm sure everybody that's listening right now is looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, I've definitely taken a different route to MMA than most guys have.
I think that's what makes your story exciting. So without any further ado, let's introduce who you are and what your background is.
Yeah, so, my name's Zac Pauga. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. Just like most other boys, I grew up playing football, and that was my main sport. I played sports every season, though. Like, I was not a football specialist or anything like that. I wrestled my entire youth and played a sport every season. I was never not playing sports. There was no internet back then, so
Right.
That's just what my parents did to get me out of the house and keep me occupied. But I did have a successful football career. In high school, I was 4 times All-State, offense and defense. Ended up going to the Colorado State University. I went there as a linebacker, but switched to offense my freshman year and ended up being, I redshirted like most people do in college, but then I ended up being a 4-year starter, started as a freshman. They called it an H-back. It's like a tight end running back combination. But, loved it, lived the dream, played Division I football, had a full ride scholarship, got signed to the Texans as a free agent. And it was hard, it was a lot harder than I think everyone wants to play in the NFL. And then you get there and all of a sudden your passion becomes your job, and you're playing football for 8 hours a day. You're watching film in the morning, you're watching film at night. And I was playing fullback, but I wasn't even actually playing fullback. I was trying to make a team playing special teams. And I hadn't played special teams since I was in 5th grade because I'd been a starter my entire career. And it was a rough go, and I got cut, and that's the business. I bounced around for a little bit in the league and just couldn't stick anywhere. And then I, ended up back at home, and just happened that the first fully professional rugby league, there was a team in Denver, in Glendale, Colorado. And my brother was already playing for the team. My dad's a Samoan immigrant, so we grew up watching rugby. Rugby was the sport of our family. So I jumped on that, played professional rugby, won the championship, won the first ever fully professional rugby championship here in the States. Was having a really good career and enjoying it. And then I had a family. I got married, had a child, and needed to make some money, a little bit more money. Rugby has options to make a lot of money, but I wasn't making enough to support a family. So kind of just walked away from athletics. I was a police officer, went into law enforcement, and I'd always been a fan of MMA and fighting. And like I said, I grew up wrestling. So I just joined Easton Training Center, which was like 15 minutes away from my house. just to do jiu-jitsu and hit the heavy bag every once in a while, stay in shape. I had no aspirations of fighting at this time, but it happened to be that's where Elevation Fight Team trains.
Right.
And there's not a whole lot of big guys when it comes to MMA for whatever reason. It's just very light in the upper weight classes. And they just needed someone to roll with Curtis Blades. Like, they just didn't have enough big bodies for him to roll with. And they saw me on the mat. They didn't know I was a football player. They didn't know anything about me. They just saw a big guy and were like, "Hey, can you come roll with Curtis?" I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." And I'm a little, crazy in that aspect. I think everyone who steps into a cage to fight is. And I just jumped in there, and I'm like, I'm not going to pretend like Curtis didn't absolutely destroy me, but afterwards I was like, you know what? If that's the number 3 heavyweight in the world, I think I could probably do this. And just got completely addicted after that. Curtis's coaches, his main coaches, Cody Donovan and Vinny Lopez, really took me under their wing and helped foster my growth as an MMA fighter. And not long after, Alistair Overeem joined the team, and we became really close and good friends, and he helped me a lot. And it's just been amazing since then. And we've just been going, fighting, undefeated, 5 amateur fights undefeated, 4 professional fights undefeated now, and hoping to keep rolling.
That is phenomenal. So backing up to the rugby thing, why do you think it's not a bigger sport in the States than what it is?
I can tell you exactly why. So rugby is a 40-minute half.
Right.
There's no timeouts. There's no stops. There's no room for commercials. So that is exactly why rugby cannot get a foothold in America.
Dude, that's so true. I never thought about the commercialization or the lack of commercial opportunity with rugby. Do you think do you think anybody would ever rewrite the rules of the game to make it Americanized, so to speak?
So they've tried, and they're trying to make it more Americanized. So rugby is in the Olympics now, but it's sevens. It's rugby sevens, which is only 7 guys on the field in 7-minute halves. So that's how they're trying to make it more commercialized. But the full 15-man game is it's too entrenched in other places for America to just change the rules and people to try and think that that the All Blacks are going to come and play our different rule set.
As a child athlete and coming up, you said you played every season. Things like wrestling and football, those were more your preferential sport, or would somebody be surprised to hear that you actually loved, I don't know, track or playing basketball or something along those lines?
So I definitely loved contact, but what people would probably be surprised is that I was a competitive volleyball player growing up. I was a pretty tall kid. I could jump pretty high. For Samoan people, volleyball is a very natural sport. It's something we're into. It's not seen as like here. There's not a whole lot of men's volleyball teams. It's more seen as a girls' sport or a women's sport. But that was something that I was really big into. And then when I got to like high school and there was no men's volleyball team, I just moved on from it. But anytime I tell people that, they never believe it.
So do you still play volleyball recreationally now?
I'll play it for fun, absolutely, especially on the beach. Like people aren't ready when they're just dinking around hitting the ball. I'll get out there and spike it for sure.
Hell yeah. So what is it about Colorado that has such a strong MMA scene right now?
So I'm not sure how it started. I don't know what brought all these guys here, but it goes back to the old like grudge team with Elliot Marshall, Cody Donovan, Dwayne Ludwig, Shane Carwin, Brennan Schaub. Like, I don't know how all those guys ended up in Colorado for whatever reason, but that's what's made it the powerhouse it is. Now that all those guys have turned into coaches and are focusing on the sport of MMA. I think where a lot of people go wrong is that they think, I'm just going to be a really good kickboxer, a really good jiu-jitsu guy, and then when I'm good at that, I'll go into MMA. And our coaches here at Elevation are treating MMA as a completely different sport, and I think that's the big difference. And then obviously we're Team Elevation. The elevation, the natural elevation here in Colorado, it makes a big difference. When you go down in elevation, in fighting, everyone is afraid of getting tired. That's what 99% of decisions you see guys making in the cage when you're like, why isn't he shooting, or why isn't he throwing leg kicks or whatever? The reason is because he's afraid of getting tired. And so when you can take that out a little bit by training at elevation, that's just another reason why you see so many good Colorado fighters.
It's funny. I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and obviously Drew Dober is also from Nebraska. He's from Omaha. So I asked him this question. I said, does the elevation really make that much of a difference in your training? And I brought up going up the Manitou Incline, for instance. Have you done that?
I have not done it as a fighter. I did it as a rugby player before, yeah.
Really? How was that experience for you? Because I chicken out every time I'm in Manitou Springs.
It's horrible. I'm sure some people like it. So like I said, I haven't done it since. Right. I did it one time when they forced me to, and it was, and I weighed about 50 pounds more than I do right now, and it was horrible. Like, it's cool that I could say I've done it, but I'm never going to do it again unless my coaches make me.
Yeah, that's what I said to Drew. I said, Bud Crawford, I guess, does it every Sunday. Like, I'm afraid to walk it, man.
So ours started as a run. Mine quickly turned into a walk. I good for Bud. I mean, that's really good for him, actually.
Right. But you've lived in Colorado pretty much your whole life, so you're used to it. You've got a natural acclimation to it, right?
Absolutely. And once you're at the level that I'm at, I mean, I don't know how long it takes to get here. I've lived here for 30 years, but this is just normal to me. The lungs burning, the lightheadedness, this is normal. When I fight down in San Diego, like I just did a few weeks ago, I feel like Superman. I'm like, is this what you guys walk around feeling like all the time? Like,
dude, I was just about to ask you that. How does fighting in different locations feel after all that training?
So at the end of the camp, being in amazing shape and then going down to sea level, it's like I started getting nervous during my warm up for the fight because I was like, I can't get tired right now. I can't get on my second wind. Like, I can't even get out of breath. And my coach Cody was like, yeah, you're at sea level. That's a good thing. I was like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, during the fight, it's just, you feel unstoppable. And like I said before, every fighter's biggest fear is getting tired in the cage. And when you can remove that, or when that doesn't peek its head up, it's a whole other ballgame.
Right. So you've had several transitions, several life transitions, interest transitions within a short period of time. What was your mental state like going from the NFL to pro rugby to law enforcement to pro fighter?
It's right now, it's taken me, I've had to go through all those things to get where I am now. My mental state wasn't great when I got cut from the Texans, and then, was playing pro rugby and had to walk away from that. I spent a lot of time kind of just blaming other people and being a hater, watching football on Sundays and be like, I'm better than that guy. I'm better than that guy. I should be in there. I spent a lot of time doing that. And it wasn't until I got into fighting and kind of found this home in martial arts that I realized that, the reason I got cut is 'cause it was my own fault. It's because I wasn't good enough to play. And it was because I wasn't working on the things I was bad at. And same in rugby. I was the same rugby player I was as a football player. Like, I didn't change anything. And that's why I didn't make big money playing rugby. There were guys making big money and I wasn't one of them. And, I same thing playing rugby. I always blamed other people. And in fighting, the beauty of individual sports is you can't blame other people. It's either you get it done or you don't get it done. And I just made a promise to myself when I started this that I was going to do whatever it takes. Like, this is the last run. There's no pro soccer for me after this or anything else. This is the last run, and I'm doing whatever it takes. And it's really a beautiful place to be at, to take responsibility for your own life and your own decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously a discipline that you've learned over time.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu, well, I guess wrestling was kind of your entry level, but jiu-jitsu is what kind of pushed you over the top and kind of nudged you into that world, correct?
Yes.
So where are you at with your jiu-jitsu journey right now?
So I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm never going to stop doing jiu-jitsu. I'll be doing jiu-jitsu 40 years from now. I will be a black belt someday. My goals, I don't do just pure jiu-jitsu as much as I would like to right now, because my immediate goals are to, get signed to a big organization and become the world champion of that organization. And spending time, in the gi or working intricate guard systems kind of takes away from that. But I love jiu-jitsu, and it's definitely a passion of mine that I'll be pursuing for the rest of my life.
So is there a certain discipline on your feet that you prefer over others?
I like Muay Thai mainly because it allows all the weapons to be used with the knees and elbows. I've spent time in Thailand training. I went out there with Alistair, and it was, an amazing experience. I'm a big fan of the culture of the Thai people, but I don't go to like a Muay Thai class. Like the striking that I train with my coach, Vinny Lopez, is MMA striking.
Sure.
It's mixing in takedowns. It's based off of having small gloves. But if I had to tie one discipline to what I like to do on the feet, it's Muay Thai.
Yeah. Awesome. With a record like yours right now, how close is that contract to happening, brother?
It's in the light heavyweight division, there's just not a whole lot of guys. I feel like I'm hoping for a short notice call up right now, but I am planning to fight one more time on the regional scene. At 5-0, it's in the light heavyweight division, it's got to be right there. There's guys that have been 3-0, 4-0, jumping up into the big leagues, and that's what I'm looking for. And I know I haven't been fighting bums either. All my opponents have had winning records. They're all good fighters. I know I'm ready for that call up.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So what makes you feel inspired to be your best self?
For me, it's honestly, and this is kind of a cliche answer, but I have 2 kids, and it's just looking at my kids and seeing what they think of me and who they think I am, and just trying to be that guy that they think I am, and being the best version of myself, because that's what they deserve. They deserve the best dad that they can have.
How old are your kids?
My daughter's 4 and my son is 1.
Life before children versus life after children. Is it like a total light switch? Because I know it was for me.
Oh, absolutely.
So who was Zac pre-kids and who is Zac now in comparison?
Zac pre-kids was still a kid. Zac pre-kid never was a procrastinator, never got anything done, put things off to the last minute. And now it's the complete opposite. I can't. If I put things off to the last minute, I know they're not ready to go. Like if I'm waiting to the last minute to get in the car, right, they're definitely not ready to go. And then we're never gonna leave the house. And like I said, it's the motivation to be my best self. And I like to use the analogy of the airplane oxygen masks. Is you got to put your own on before you put your kids on. And I can't be who my kids need to be unless I'm being the best version of myself, unless I'm chasing my dreams and doing everything that I have to do to be the best individual I can be. That's how I be the best dad that I can be, being the best example I can, showing them, not just telling them how they should live their life, but showing them by example how I expect them to live their lives.
So if you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
That's a good question. People ask me all the time what I would do if I could go back and be on the Texans again. And I don't know if I would change anything. I don't know if I would tell my 18-year-old self anything, because I had to go through what I went through to be where I'm at now. If I just jumped straight into fighting, or if I had maybe made it into the NFL and not had the character building that I went through in my early 20s, I wouldn't be ready to go on the run that I am now. And people are going to see when I get in the UFC and when I get signed to the big leagues and I just tear it apart. People are going to wonder why. And it's going to be because of what I went through in my 20s. So if I could talk to my 18-year-old self, I would just tell him to get ready. Get ready for everything that's coming.
I love that because, one of the things that crossed my mind while we were talking here is somebody else with some Samoan lineage has a very similar story. The Rock, his story where he says, sometimes the best thing to ever happen to you is the thing that never happened. And it sounds like you're on a pretty good path right now with all of that.
Absolutely. There's times that I wake up early and, or when I have sore legs from getting kicked and I'm like, man, it would have been nice to just make it in football, but that's not how it works. That's not how life works. And I wouldn't be ready for what I'm about to do if I had made it in football like that.
Right. So what's the thing that makes you the most nervous these days?
Right now, and it's hard because fighting isn't just a sport. With football and rugby and even wrestling, all that mattered was winning.
Sure.
Period. Like you get ahead on the clock, you take a knee. That's what you do in football. You just ice the game, you win the game. I'm not worried about losing and fighting. I'm undefeated now. I'm sure a loss may come someday, but I'm so confident in my preparation that I'm not worried about losing. I am worried about trying to put on a show or trying to, not be my authentic self in the cage because I'm chasing crowd reactions, things like that. So that's what I get nervous about, is just trying to be my best self in the cage and not let the type of outcome I'm chasing dictate how I'm going to fight.
You seem very measured. Did that come from becoming a fighter, or were you always very level-headed and well thought out and measured in how you respond to things in life?
It's definitely taken some time, but it's like I said, it's from what I went through in football and in rugby, and I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I've had a lot of experience talking to the media. I've said some dumb things that have been put in the newspaper. I've had some really, bad portrayals of myself that I've had to read and my family have had to read. And I had to sit there and think like, man, I thought that guy was my friend. I thought he was just shooting the shit with me and we were having a good conversation and he was writing it all down to throw it in the newspaper. And so it's just experience.
Right.
It's experience. And that's my strength right now is all the experiences I've had, and not just going through them, but growing from them and learning from them and taking it into this fight career.
Sure. So who's your biggest hero and how have they made a lasting impact on your life?
My parents are my biggest hero. My heroes, both of them, my mom and dad. My dad came here, like I said, like as a Samoan immigrant, barely spoke any English, married my mom, and they had 3 kids and they figured it out. No college degree, put us all through school, raised us, fed us, kept us fed, got us to sports, got us to everything we needed to do. We didn't know that we were any different than any other kids growing up. And, it humbles me to think of what they did for me. And then that's also part of my goal, is just to return the favor, return everything they gave me in my youth and the strong background that they gave me, and be able to return that and make their lives a little easier here in the future.
Yeah. What's this fighting journey been like for them?
They hate it. They absolutely hate it. They don't watch, they don't like it that it's happening, but they do understand, and they obviously know me, that when I put my mind to something, no one's going to talk me out of it, and it's not going to. Yeah. I'm not going to just stop because, even them, no matter what anybody says, I'm not going to just stop.
It's weird because I look at the past, I wouldn't even say 5 years. It's more like 3-4 years. And it's like MMA has kind of had this huge evolution year over year over year. And within the past 3-4 years, it feels like it's evolved more than it had the 25 years prior. I think UFC 1 was 94 or 95, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think 94.
Yeah. And so it's evolving. So do you think that people that are not gravitating towards MMA are not gravitating toward it because of stereotypes versus, what the actual sport has become?
I think there is definitely still a little bit of stigma about the, no holds barred, anything can happen. It's still in a cage, which is definitely turns people off, that they lock us in a cage to fight. That definitely turns people off, but it's also, what makes the sport so unique and so exciting is that extra sense of danger that they like to keep involved with it.
Yeah, I don't think, with the UFC in particular, I don't think people are paying attention to the whole story that goes into a fight. And I think more people would gravitate to that if they realized what went on with weight cuts, training camps, and all the work that goes into preparation for a fight. Like, are you in camp right now?
I'm not in camp right now. So I just fought 3 weeks ago. So off a little bit and hopefully I'll be in camp here in the next 3 weeks. But I'm just chilling right now.
Yeah.
Still training, but this is the fun part of camp when you can, or of the fight career, where you can actually try and learn new skills. So trying to learn some new stuff, because once camp goes, we just hone in on what I'm doing well already and just sharpen that as much as possible. I'm not trying to learn new things in the lead up to a fight, but
sure,
this 6 weeks is when I can learn new stuff.
Sure. So what's your diet and exercise routine like whenever you're not in camp?
When I'm not in camp, so my diet is kind of just eating clean, clean calories, but not watching the amount.
Right.
As much as I want, stay fueled. I'm actually on a little bit of a weight gain program right now. My coaches think my weight cuts have been too easy, so I'm trying to gain a little bit of weight right now. So it's still clean calories. I'm not eating McDonald's, but
right.
I'm eating as much as I want to and then some and more, trying to put on a little bit more muscle.
Sure.
And then I probably train more out of camp. The biggest part of camp is recovery and making sure you're there on fight night. That's the most important part of camp. If you can't get to the fight, what are you doing that camp for? But so out of camp, I'm lifting and doing strength and conditioning 3 days a week, and then still doing a skills practice every day. So lifting 3 days a week, and then it'll be either a kickboxing, a boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, or wrestling practice as well every single day.
You're at such a great strategic advantage being in a place where you're regularly rolling around with Curtis Blades and Alistair. How is that like as a life experience? How is that for you?
So like I said before, I'm an MMA fan. A lot of the guys in the sport aren't fans of the sport. I was a fan of the sport, and that's how I got into the sport. And Alistair was a big. I was a big fan of his, and I watched him on TV on Pride when I was in 6th grade growing up. So when he came into the gym, it was cool, and then just to become friends with him has been awesome, and just the benefit of training with him and Curtis, I know for a fact I'm not going to see anybody on this regional scene that's even close, that's even remotely close to those two. And that gives me so much confidence going into all my fights.
Just the experience of becoming friends with and training with a hero, essentially, that could just jar with anybody psychologically to some degree, doesn't it?
Yeah, you got to be crazy to do this fight game. The first day he came in, they were just like, "Hey, Alistair's here to spar. Someone's got to spar him." And I just, I was like, "Oh, that's cool," but I put my mouthpiece in and I went to spar, and I brought it to him pretty hard. And it turns out he likes to spar hard too, and that's kind of what launched it off. Is he was just like, "Hey, we should train together more." And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. So what does Zac do for fun outside the fight game?
Like I said, I have 2 kids, so I don't have a whole lot of free time. I try and spend as much with them as I can. We just went to the zoo today. It's a great time. I do like to unwind, like to watch movies. I play video games. That's a big, probably hobby of mine that I don't get to do as much as I'd like, but when it's just me, which is very, very few times, but yeah, I'll turn on the PlayStation and play some video games.
Through this life journey, how will your friends describe who you've become?
It's a good question. I would hope, that they would say that he's just a guy that learned from his mistakes, that went out there, that wasn't afraid to make them, wasn't afraid to make mistakes, but he learned from them and he grew. And, he just became a genuine good person.
What's something on your workout playlist that people would be shocked by? Because everybody's got that shame song.
So actually, my wife tells me that I'm a psychopath because I don't listen to music.
Really? What do you listen to?
I don't listen to anything.
Really?
Silence. My own breath. And I don't like to listen to music. I don't want external motivation. It's all got to come from inside.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I freak out if I leave my headphones at home. Yeah. It's like, man, I can't go to the gym. I left I can't do this workout today. I left my headphones at home. But I don't listen to music.
Do you listen to like podcasts or?
It's either podcasts or books, man.
Mm-hmm. So I listen to books and podcasts in the car. I don't ever listen to music. Like I said, my wife says it makes me a psychopath, but I don't listen to music at all. I listen to podcasts in the car when driving. And in the gym, I just listen to my own breath. That's it.
Does it help you focus?
It does. Well, and like breath work is something that I train a lot and that I believe is a big part of training that people neglect is breath work and recovery. And it does help me focus. And it's something that I am focusing on is how I'm breathing every set, every sparring round, everything like that.
Yeah, I've got a group chat with a few buddies, and we've been having this debate about rest days. I got one friend that's like taking on the David Goggins philosophy of no days off, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna hurt yourself doing that. That's when the real work happens, is when you're in that recovery phase.
That's when you get better, is resting. Yes.
Yeah.
Recovery is the most important part of training.
Awesome, man. So 6 months from now, where are you at?
If it's up to me, 6 months from now, I'm in the UFC. I already have one win and one bonus, and hopefully getting ready for my second one.
Hell yes, man. And, I'm not going to lie, brother. We've been following each other for a few weeks now on Instagram, and seeing you after that win and reading up on your career and seeing everything that you've done, watching your fights on YouTube, man, I think it's going to happen. Don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. And I'm really excited to see your career trajectory, my friend.
Thank you.
But it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. And anytime you want to come back and do this again, let's do it.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
There was kind of a different yet special anomaly about recording this episode where I felt like I was at the ground level of somebody that is going to be a huge MMA star very soon. Big thanks to Zac and my friends at Elevation Fight Team. Please follow Zac on social media. That's ZACPAUGA. And give my friends at Elevation Fight Team a follow also on all forms of social media. While you're on social media, make sure you give me that like and follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you can find me, Twitter. Follow Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. You can also hit me up, www.caughtonthemic.com. Make sure you're leaving that 5-star review on the Apple Podcast app. I greatly appreciate it. There is some exciting stuff coming later down the line, and I'm excited to share it all with you guys. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. And until next time, thank you.